Hi and welcome to Andy Gorman Golf One Putt podcast, and we're here at round 2 and hole 35 of the 2 series that we've done so far. It's incredible. I can't believe we've done nearly 2 rounds, Gareth. But we're talking today on Riviera and the interesting setup of the golf course, the iconic venue that it is. You know, the history of Hogan and Tiger, although he's never won a tournament there, but he's hosting the event this week with obviously the 2 feature players, which would be Max Homa and Tony Finau, and Andy Gorman's thoughts on what went on over the weekend. A little bit of weather as well was thrown in the mix, which is always good. Looking at some putter designs and a thank you tribute at the end. We'll tell you more. Hi Gareth, how are you?
Yeah, really good, Andy. How are you?
Yeah, good. I've had an interesting weekend, really, but nothing major to share about. We had great live on Friday, of course.
Did you get your walking boots on?
We didn't. No, just weather, time. Yeah, we've just got a nice busy weekend. Sort of got a load of stuff done. New beginnings with Becky for her new job, and so a lot of organising to do. So it's kind of interesting, really.
Brilliant. And then hopefully we'll get some good news today about golf returning in the UK. Everybody's
I'm hoping so. I mean, it's still looking like it'll be the end of March. Because I think if we go, end of March, then when's the coaching going to start? And that's look, if we can meet, then there's no reason why the coaching can't start. So I've got players chomping at the bit. It's just we're all desperate to get back at it now. So it's come on, BJ. So let's get sorted. Let's get back out there. So.
At least the golf keeping us busy though.
Well, you say that, but there's only one event. Yeah. So there's a bit to talk about, but there's only one event. And I find that, it's kind of a little bit weird, really. I don't know that we've got... are we used to this? I mean, it just a bit odd. I don't think, I thought we had other events. In Europe, I think there's one next week, isn't there? In Europe, I think they're.
Because it's the World Golf Championship, isn't it, next week? And then I'll look through my research and see if there's any.
Yeah. So so it's just a little. But I tell you what, you still get a great tournament when you go to Riviera, and it finished quite early as well, because relative to the fact that obviously we're 8 hours behind from us, it was great to be able to watch it some reasonable time, get to bed without going at sort of 1 o'clock in the morning. But I thought it was an exceptional tournament. Obviously, they're not used to proper links golf. They can't play in the wind. Have to bring them in off the course. That was, mind you, some putt that caused the hooter to go off, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And the biggest challenge of all when you've got wind, I saw a load of tweets over Sunday talking about the fact that obviously they pulled it. It's just a wee breeze in Scotland, and on a links course, that is literally it. I mean, we've seen Open Championships played in much more severe winds, but of course, Open Championships, when they know the winds are coming, and we've got the weather forecasts. We're not going to have the greens running at 12 on the stimp. And and plus the fact the grasses are different, so the grasses on the links course are much more wiry, and again, that offers its extra resistance, so you're going to be around about 25-30 mile an hour gusts before you see the ball moving around. Whereas it was quite fascinating, actually. I thought it was quite amusing, especially a putt on the 10th, which is kind of interesting. Tricky hole. Get it on the green, you're quite happy. 2 putts from wherever you are on the green, you're extremely happy. 1 putt between 2 bunkers to leave yourself an uphill into the wind chip shot for your 4th shot is it's not quite the way that you have it planned.
No. What do you think of the hole with the bunker in the middle of the green? What are your thoughts on that? Is that?
Oh yeah, I love that too. I think, you know, that especially at the level these guys are playing at, if you can't pull the right club and hit it in the right section at that level, and I'm saying that the recreational golfer is going to enjoy it, but at that level, I think it's great. I think, you know, I'd love to see more courses like that. The only problem with more courses being like that, of course, is that people will take divots out the green on those front side sections. And I would, you know, if I had to play the shot, I mean, I wouldn't want it to, you know, if I was having to play a flop shot, there'd be a nick out the green. So I'm not saying a divot to the size of my arm, but, you know, it's only a short shot. But there will be people that go in there and get a great stabbing, you know, shot. And of course, that grass isn't quite as deep rooted, and subsequently it would not bind, and you end up with all sorts of chunk marks out of it. So it'd be kind of interesting to see what that green looks like after the club championship or something.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, instead of, you know, sort of 150 golfers through it that are not tour players, who've got control over the distances and the direction that they're hitting it in. So yeah, but I like that. I like, and 282 yard par 4s. Brilliant, perfect. You know, because, you know, we see ridiculous numbers on there. You know, we've seen triple bogeys. I don't know what the highest score was this weekend. I've not caught the stats just yet, but, you know, I would imagine there was an 8 there or something. You know, there's normally a quadruple bogey or more on that hole, even, you know, in a tour event like that. So it's a great golf course. It stood the test of time. I don't know that it's got an awful lot more real estate that can extend, but it just shows it doesn't have to. Was it winning score 12 under par in a playoff? I mean, that's most times it's very, very rarely that high. You know, the playing conditions were exceptional. All right, we had the wind, you know, but it finds players out. That's the beauty about it. You know, and a good golf course should do that.
Major championship venue as well. I know it's been in the past, but could it host a US Open?
Again, you know, it's done the US Open before, so yeah. I think it's a terrific venue for that. You've only got to grow that rough in and up a touch to bring in level par. Turn it from 71 to 70. There's 4 shots off the par. That's 12 becomes 8. You grow that rough up to 6 inches, you know, and narrow those fairways, because of the slopes on the fairways as well, causes the player to, if he's looking for an advantage, you know, he wants to run the ball down the fairways for distance, but then that means that your fairways are narrower, you know, because you're not turning the ball into the slope to hold it. So, you know, they can run off, or the runoff areas, you put the ball, you know, the grass thicker. You know, I mean, not thought about it, haven't given it any thought whatsoever, but, you know, the way I would set up a US Open there is, you know, on the high side of the fairway, you know, 4 to 5 inch rough, and on the low side of the fairway, 10 inches. You know, the premiums that you hit it left to get the bounce, you know, on the left to right slope, or left to right hole. You hit it like 18, you get it stuck on the left hand side there, you could be going in with a, you know, 6 iron, because the ball isn't going to bounce 30 yards. So if you're going in with a 6 iron out of 4 inches of rough, 5 inches of rough, you know, then the penalty is there. I remember a number of years ago, I was at the Belfry, I was working on the greens there, for the green, you know, the course, as a part of the ground staff. And we had the English Open there. It was 1989. So we've got Ryder Cup coming in September. This was June time, if I remember rightly. It may have been end of May, but it was, you know, sort of around that time. Grass is growing like wildfire, and, you know, and Neil Coles was on the players committee at the time, and he said, you're going to have to cut the rough down on some of the holes, because the penalty for hitting the ball into 4 inches of rough is the same as hitting it into 12 inches of rough. The only difference is you can find it in 4 inches. So at 4 o'clock in the morning, we were mowing. We'd all got our cars lined up with our headlights on. We were mowing banks which had got, 12 inches of rough on, because the fairways were too hard for the players to keep the ball on the fairway, and it just meant that the golf course became unplayable. Now, of course, a few days later, when you've got all the spectators treading that down, that hay becomes flattened, and the ball can get underneath it, and you just don't find it. So that was the reason behind it, and we got the rough cut at around about 4 inches, and the course was playable. And but I remember Monday afternoon, just being summoned to, right, who's on the early shift? We're already on early shift anyway, but whoever's on the early shift, who wants to come in and start mowing these banks down. So and we've seen it in the odd event before where they've gone along and they've took the top off the rough on a Monday, and
well, even at Riviera, weren't they? They were watering the greens because they were getting that firm.
Yeah, you can. I mean, you do have to play. You have to make the course. You have to make the course playable, or allow the course to be playable. That's the first thing, and then you have to be fair. I think golf courses can be fair but tough, and that's the type of venue that Riviera always is. And it's obviously plays a premium for finding fairways. You can't just bludgeon it out there, and gouge it on, because you can't get close to the flags if you're on the wrong side. You miss it. So it's a great fair golf course. I can't remember exactly how long it is, but it's obviously long enough. But saying that, look at the wedge shot that Max Homer hit into the last on the last round. I mean, it's a wedge. It's that was 5s and 6 irons is back in the day. So, but again, very, very, very firm fairways, and the ball's running out 60, 70, 80 yards. It is going to make the golf course easier if you can find the fairway.
Go on, Andy. Have a guess. How long is Riviera? I've just
6'9".
Yes, well done. 6'9", 50 it is.
Yeah. I thought it was under 7,000. So,
it just shows, doesn't it? Just shows. Doesn't have to be 7,500 yards.
No. And we've said this before, but I think if you can get the players putting a bit more spin on the ball, add a bit of loft to the drivers, so they're forced to play with a club that's, putting more spin on it, stops them from hitting the golf ball, this low running shot when the fairways are firm. It stops them from swinging off, at 7 degrees and launching it out there with 1,500 spin. You can, at 130, 40 mile an hour clubhead speeds, you can restrict things very, very quickly if you get that loft up. So
well, it shows, doesn't it, with Max Homer? I know DJ's got one in the bag. They both got 7 woods, and he's the first player on the PGA Tour to win with a 7 wood. And
I couldn't believe that stat. I mean, I found that very difficult to get my head around. I remember Lee Trevino having a 6 wood a number of years ago. And I would have thought, players would have embraced the 7 wood. So somebody would have embraced the 7 wood. I think, I remember great fairway wood players back in the day, Hale Irwin, Corey Pavin. These guys used to get that golf ball out there, decent enough. I mean, Corey Pavin wasn't the longest hitter, but played incredible shots with a fairway wood. So I'm surprised that, somewhere along the line, a 7 wood hasn't been in the bag of a winner in the past. However, of course, what is a 7 wood?
Yeah,
it is a number on the end of the club. What's the loft on the end of the club? Probably about 21, which used to be a 5 wood back in the day. So, it comes down to it. What's the number on the bottom of the club? And I think DJ's got one. And he's saying he's hitting it 245 yards. I mean, please.
Andy, you're spot on there. The 7 wood in Homer's bag, TSI 2, 21 degree.
Yeah. So, look, it says 7, back in the day, it's a 7 wood. It is, because that's what it says on it. But it, you know, back in the day, that was a 5-wood, and you know, we've just changed the numbers to make them work. But you know, we all know that the numbers don't really correlate to what we used to. So, but again, you know, it's great. It's a great club. I remember Callaway coming out with the Heavenwood back in the day.
Best clubs I used to have, that was
7-wood head, if I remember rightly. You know, Heavenwood, brilliant. What a way to, you know, what a great use of words. But you know, like I say, you've got a slightly longer shaft, a smaller head, able to dig it out the rough, able to get it out of bunkers. I mean, it's a terrific club. You know, it's
You had one in the bag, Andy, before?
Sorry?
Have you had one in the bag before?
7-wood? Yeah, very much so. I had a Top Flight Intimidator 7-wood.
That's a good name. Good name, that is.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it had an aerofoil underneath the back of the club. So, you know, as it got into the ground, it wouldn't dig in, you know, but it would guide the clubs in a straight, a little bit like the Cobra Rail clubs that they've got. But this thing used to use the hangers and aerofoil. It hung down. The bottom of the club was there. This thing used to hang down on it. I've still got it. It's been a long time since it's been in the bag, primarily because it sits shut with this aerofoil on. And what it does, it gets your hands in front. Now, it replaced my 3-iron. So I've never had a 3-iron in the bag since I had it. And it replaced the 3-iron with a guaranteed shot of 220 yards. But I always hit it right to left. I could never cut it in. And of course, you know, then you've got to, you know, what do you do? How do you play the shot? And I remember playing golf with a friend of mine, you know, back in the day. You know, we're playing at Kings Norton, and the 18th on the 9th on the red, which was our 18th hole, uphill par 5, nearly 600 yards, just, you know, ridiculous length of, you know, fairly normal these days. But we stood on the Tiger tee, and we'd all hit really good drives. And the lad I'm playing with used to be a junior and an assistant there. And he said, I've never got up this hole in 2 with a drive and an iron. And I get up to the ball and I've got 215 yards to the flag, and I'm like, 7-wood. But then I remembered what had been said. Now, he couldn't get up with his driving 2-iron or whatever it was. You know, he tried to get up there with a 2-iron, and, you know, he was still 20 yards short. And I'd got a good drive away, so I was a few yards ahead of him. I won't mention him. It is a little embarrassing. But I decided to cut a 2-iron in. I thought I could have got there with a 4-iron, I'll be honest with you. But it was a 7-wood all day long. I mean, it was just straight out 7-wood. But with him saying he's never got up there with a driving an iron, I just had to do it. So yeah, not the 2-iron, little cutty 2-iron into the green, heart of the green, 2-putt birdie. Just had to be done. But you know, the go-to club on long par 5s, long par 4s, long par 3s, you know, was that 7-wood. It was ridiculously club. I mean, you know, if I'm playing against somebody, you know, and I pulled the 7-wood out, it was like, you know, that was because they knew it was on the green. I mean, it was literally, it was the postman club. You know,
are we gonna see more of these kind of golfers making a revival? 7-woods, 9-woods, that type of thing. Do you think?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's a good question, because hybrids, I've looked at it, you know, and if I've looked at trying to get a 7-wood back in the bag. So yeah, you know, because it was such a good club for me. But the hybrids do such a good job as well without the stall now, if you get the right shaft in it. So, you know, but the 7-wood is a great club. I mean, I'd happily put a 7-wood back in the bag. If I could find the club, the trouble is with me is that, you know, I've got a 3-iron, a hybrid, and a 7-wood. If I did that, would all 3 clubs are going more or less the same distance. So I've got to drop, you know, I've got to drop a couple of those. I mean, with the hybrid, I can choke down on it and effectively get 2 clubs out of it. So I can get a softer shot into the green, whereas the 3-iron's not doing that unless I'm teeing it up. So if I'm hitting a shot into the green, want to hit a low shot, then the 3-iron's perfect for it, because it is a driving iron, so it's a hybrid iron. 7-wood, what would it do? Would I be as comfortable hitting the 7-wood off the tee? Possibly going to balloon up a little bit. But I'd probably replace the hybrid with the 7-wood if I was going to do it. So yeah, I have looked at it. It's they're such a versatile club, but then so's the hybrid if you get the right loft anyway. So
yeah, I'm going to stoke the fire now. I'm just going to mention one name, Tony Finau. Go, Andy.
Oh, thanks. It's frustrating. Oh my word, I've said it how many times now. It is frustrating. That guy's got so much talent from tee to green, but he needs to shove this putter up his arse. I think is the most important. I think if he did that, he might stand half a chance. Oh man, I tell you, I know it'll put a smile on a few faces and a cringe on one or two as well. And I do apologise for being slightly crass on that, or very crass. But I'd just love to get a hold of him for a few days. He's putting without a clue. He's trying to find something that's not there.
And it looks at Duntis.
He needs
very
direction.
uncomfortable. Looks very uncomfortable.
Massively. Short of being 6'5". It's a bit of a ironic statement, but yeah. No, he's a tall fellow, and he's always going to struggle to find a club that fits him properly if the manufacturers are not into buying, making clubs the appropriate length. We've said it that many times. We're at our 35th podcast, and I'll probably say it again next week. If the putter's not the right length, the player can't posture to it properly. If you can't posture to it properly, you can't move your body. And if you can't move your body, you're putting with your hands. Tony's got to now, standing further away from it, using a 34-inch putter and hacking across the golf ball. I just don't know where it goes.
We heard on the Tallycast, didn't we? We're talking about kind of Finau and his woes, but arguably probably one of the best players ever, changing his putter setup to kind of suit his ability, ailments, everything else at the moment. So what are your thoughts on that? What Tiger said at the weekend, Andy?
Well, I think it just shows that people don't sit down and do nothing during their off periods. So, I'm pretty sure that we can track how many times Tiger's listened to us talk about the length of putter and how important it is to us, especially if you've got a bad back. So maybe he's just, had a little bit of a search in there and gone like, Andy Gorman said I need to lengthen my putter. I think it was quite refreshing. At the end of the day, he's been alluding to it for a while now, at least 6 months. In fact, actually, I know it's longer than that, but he actually put one in his bag, didn't he? A longer one. So what he's suggesting there is nothing really new. But I think what you'll find is he's done it to his old putter. He's done it to his gamer. That's the one he feels most comfortable with, albeit the new one will be spec'd up exactly the same. It has the adjustable weights. But of course, what's also happened is that, by lengthening the club, however long he's gone, he's going to increase the effective swing weight of the putter. So it's going to feel a little heavier to him. And I think he'll like that, because it feels good when you do that. I think his putter's only about 335 weight anyway. The original putters were not that heavy. So it'd be 330 to 335. I don't think it'll be any heavier than that. And it's only the newer ones that have got up to sort of 340s and 350s. So of course his new one, he can adjust it to whatever weights he wants, so he can go up or down. But his gamer is just by lengthening it, whatever that might be.
What do you think? What are you predicting? What do you think it'll be lengthwise?
It won't be far short of 36. And the reason why I say that is because I'm pretty sure Tiger's using clubs that are a fraction longer than standard. What standard? So we don't know what standard really is. If standard is standard, then a sand iron, he is sand iron. So he's not saying lob wedge, he's saying sand iron, which will be his 56, would be around about 35 and a quarter to 35 and a half. If he's using half-inch longer than standard, that's going to get up around about 36. I would, Tiger's got really long arms, so as much as somebody his height would be around about 36 and a half ordinarily, if you were fitting off a static fitting based on my principles, I would expect it to be under 36 just because he's got such long arms. So the static measurement goes off height to start, then wrist to ground, and then we ultimately we determine the length of the club on the basis that you stand tall in posture, get yourself nice and comfortable holding the putter in your trail hand, and whatever length you need to fill in with the top hand, you adjust the club to. It doesn't matter what the club length is, as long as you're posturing well. And what Tiger doesn't need to do is to create any extension in his lumbar spine. Any flexion in his lumbar spine. He needs to maintain that flexion. So, get it right for a second. He needs to maintain the extension. Anything that's going to cause that lumbar spine to lose the natural inward curve, as soon as it starts to straighten, because he's not rounding it, but as soon as it starts to straighten, he loses that effectiveness, and that's where he'll start to miss the putts that he would have ordinarily hold. He'll be able to stand to the putter and practice for a good lengthy period of time as well, which would be great. Which for him will then give him his confidence, because he'll feel like he can do his reps using his term. So it looks like he's I would say he's probably struggling with his rehab at this point in time, just from what I can see.
He seems a guy who just wants to get out there. He wants to compete. He wants to practice the way he's always practiced. And it must be frustrating for somebody of that stature.
Well, let's just relate it to where we are at the moment, where we can't go and play. So our frustration levels are boiling over now, and he's got 1 eye. He's got 7 weeks to be ready to compete at the Masters. That's 7 weeks to go from rehab, no golf balls for probably 7 weeks earlier. He had surgery done before Christmas, I think, if I remember rightly. So he's gone 7 weeks already since hitting the golf ball, and he's going to go 3 months barely hitting the golf ball to trying to stripe it out there. If I was a betting man, I'd say he doesn't play.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure he can go into that tournament. I don't think he's ever missed a cut there, has he?
No, I don't think so.
I'm not so sure he can go into that tournament without playing at least the week before.
Yeah.
I just can't see it. And at the same time, I can't see that he'll be able to get up to speed to be competitive in 5 weeks. He's not even out there, as he said, he's not had his MRI yet to see whether he's healed. So it's difficult. I know what the issues are with the back. I know what happens. I mean, I've been down with 2 back injuries in the last 3 weeks. I mean, I know the pain, and I know what he can and can't do when you're in that pain. He shouldn't be in pain, but he's going through rehab. So he's got to make sure his scars are healed before he can start to get into any kind of speeds.
And he hasn't got many. I'm just looking at the schedule now. He hasn't got many decent chances really, because WGC to match play on the 24th of March. There's the Valero Texas Open on the 1st of April, and then the 8th of April is the Masters. So he hasn't got much competitive golf between now and then to actually get game ready.
He'll have to play the Valero,
even
if it is just a couple of rounds.
Yeah.
Because he's going to have. I think Tiger's more likely to pull out of the Masters if he can't get. If he feels like he's a week away from being able to get hitting golf balls properly, I don't think he'll go into the Masters cold.
Yeah. He won't want to make a fool of himself, will he? He won't want to go over there to make up the numbers.
It's not so much that. I think you have to put yourself under the gun to find out what you're capable of physically. you know, and back injuries are not something that you can just come straight back after. This isn't an injury, this is surgery. An injury is something that you don't come back and rush out off, you know, this is surgery. It's, you know, and I look, I'm a pretty good judge of character. That doesn't mean I get it right all the time, but I saw Tiger pained by his lack of progress. I think he would have wanted to be hitting golf balls by now.
Yeah.
You know, even if it is just the softest of pitch shots, you know, just to get some kind of movement in there, you know, and he's not even up to proper speed in terms of the gym, as he said, you know, he's not even doing proper reps, he's just doing rehab stuff. You can see, you know, he's massively frustrated. So, yeah, I'd be very surprised if he plays in the Masters, which is a massive disappointment to everybody, but more so to Tiger, because you know, he's running out of time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's the one event that he knows he can compete on a fairly level playing field as soon as he gets the chance. And you know, it's you know, it's a shame. It's a shame.
Yeah, it really is. I want to talk a little bit about new product. It's been made kind of quite apparent the last few weeks about new putters that have been coming out to market. For me, Andy, they all look very, very similar. This kind of this rectangle shape with two fins coming off the back of them. What are your thoughts?
You've just nailed it. Yeah, they are looking very samey. You know, if we look at, you know, the last couple of years, definitely the Futura series from Scotty, the Wingman from Tour Edge, and you know, the 10 from Even Roll, and you look at, you know, sort of Bettinardi's and the like. They're all going that way. I mean, Callaway's obviously, you know, part of the Toulon. Sorry.
In Odyssey, because Joe Toulon went from TaylorMade, didn't he, to Odyssey? So he's taking the Spider design with him. Yeah,
it's you know, and I mean, I quite like the 2-ball 10. I think that's, you know, I get that putter, I get that design. I like it. I prefer the shaft in the middle, as you know, but you know, that may or may not come. If a few tour players ask for it, they'll make it. But you know,
why aren't they going down that route, Andy? Because that always bemuses me, because I used to love Scotty did the Red X putter with the centre shaft. That was probably one of my best putters I've ever had in my bag.
Yeah, I think it's the best kept secret. Personally, look, you know, Robo Putt's ready, so you know, we're going to be testing over the next few weeks or so. I'm going to put my neck on the block and say I'm 5 weeks away from coaching, I think. So I've got 5 weeks of testing. So we're testing new shafts, including the one step, you know, Carbon Mac, CT putter, you know, Stroke Lab. We've got, you know, we're primarily a shaft testing program that we're doing. But at the same time, also we're going to be testing what happens to certain putter head designs and why certain putter head designs are the way that they are. You know, what's the benefits of having a shaft in the heel with the shaft pointing, you know, the bend pointing towards the sweet spot over a shaft in the sweet spot. And, you know, I want to be able to find that answer. And then be able to articulate it, because ultimately, you know, I think there's plenty of folk can tell you what they feel the answer is, but, you know, not necessarily be able to articulate it from the data that's collected. Why I think it's looks. I think, you know, golf manufacturers are telling us what they want us to play ultimately, because if you don't design it, then the player's not necessarily going to ask for it. You know, so there is an element of that, and you know, my cynical head says that if you release the best kept secret, then people aren't going to buy a new putter.
Yeah.
But again, you know, it can be the best kept secret in the world, and if a player doesn't like the look of it, then again, at the same time, I would be the one that says, If you don't like the look of it, don't play it, because you've got to be able to like the look of it. You know, we've talked about it before, you know, and, you know, the first and foremost thing about a putter is that you're going to look down at it. If you don't putt very well, you're going to look at it 40 times. And if you do putt well, you're going to look at it 25 times. And the best you're going to do with any other club in your bag is 10, 15 times. You know, that's it. So, you know, still going to use it 2 to 2.5 times more often than any other club, minimum, than any other club in the bag. So you've got to like the look of it. And if you don't, then, you know, your tenure with that club is going to be a fairly short one, because you're always going to be looking for something that looks better.
Yeah.
No matter how well it performs, you know, you're always going to convince yourself that something better looking is going to perform better.
Yeah.
So,
it's just so frustrating when you've got Odyssey, you've got 9 different designs in this new 10 model, and none of them are even an option of a centre shafted option. I just don't get it.
Yeah, it's interesting that they've come up with a 10 series and I've only got 9 putters.
Yeah.
I mean, what's the 10 stand for?
Exactly.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, well, you were on a call. You were privy to a call a week or so ago. You know, where I spoke to one of the leading manufacturers and said, "Have you not got any centre shafty putters?" And they said, "Yeah, we have." I said, "Well, don't bring anything unless you bring the centre shafty putters with you." Right, okay, I'm going to have to get them in then, you know, because he hasn't even got them for demo. Well, how are you going to sell them if you don't show them?
Exactly.
And that comes down to manufacturer. It doesn't come necessarily down to rep. That comes down to manufacturer supplying that product. They don't believe that it's going to sell, or they don't want it to sell. You know, what is it? You know, what are they holding back? For me, I think the centre shafty putter is the best kept secret. The reason why is because you're swinging the sweet spot. You know, if you can swing the sweet spot, which is right at the end of the shaft, you swing the shaft in plane, you keep the sweet spot in plane. All other shafts are moving and your sweet spot's further away. Now, look, we know that every other golf club, the sweet spot is a couple of inches in front of the shaft. If you just look at your golf club and, you know, look at the driver, look at an iron, you know, that the shaft goes into the heel. But you are given the opportunity by the rules of golf to be able to have the shaft in line with the sweet spot, or the sweet spot in line with the shaft. Now, you figure out which one's better, but ultimately you're swinging the shaft. And if you can swing the shaft with the sweet spot at the end of it, it's much easier to keep the sweet spot moving in that plane of movement that controls the face and the strike. I mean, talking the sweet spots, you know, let's go back to the tournament. You know, missing a putt on the sweet spot, or missing the sweet spot, you know, it has a massive effect on the start line.
Yeah.
And it may not appear that it's doing anything significant, but on the 18th green yesterday afternoon over at Riviera, you know, there was a 3-foot putt to win the tournament before a playoff had an opportunity to be extending the play. And, you know, it caught the hole, but it started 2 inches too far left.
Yeah.
And, you know, maybe there was a little underread in the break, or it didn't get hit firm enough because it wasn't a great stroke, even though one of the commentators said there was nothing wrong with the stroke. But the strike for a start, he said there's nothing wrong with the stroke and nothing wrong with the strike. Well, you know, I can't tell you how many times I played it back last night and it still didn't come out the sweet spot. And it came out the heel. So, you know, the air of caution on a right to left putt is you hit it towards the toe so that the face is going to be opening slightly, not closing. You know, either way, you want the golf club to be square at the point of impact, because we know it influences 90% of the start line. So, you know, it was a missed strike. The path looked like it was a little bit left. The line looked like it was a little bit too straight. It combined towards that. Now, you know, towards a miss. Thankfully, from his perspective, it didn't cost him the tournament. It put him through a little bit of extra sweat, but, you know, and he played the 2 playoff holes extremely well. But, you know, he didn't win it. In effect, he had a chance to win it and he didn't win it. It was gifted to him because there was an error in there. Again, you know, back to the frustration of Tony Finau on and around.
We'll get there one day, Andy, even if we have to go and like placard on the side of the 18th green at Royal St. George's.
Listen, I could have relied upon you to do that at one point in time, but unfortunately, you've pulled the wool under that. So, yeah, you know, I mean, it's it's one of those, isn't it? You know, yeah. I mean, I'd love to, like I say, you know, I think if there was one player I felt I could really help, you know, right now, it would be Tony Finau.
Because Tita Green, he's immense. He's absolutely.
Oh my word! I mean, you know, if you got the opportunity to work with that level of talent, knowing what you can do with him on the greens, yeah, that guy's a world beater.
Yeah, exactly.
He hasn't got weakness. He has, you know, there are times where he hits shots that are challenging to you, like the second playoff hole. I mean, he's missed it 40, 50 feet left of the target. I mean, that's a huge miss at that level. And an easy, you know, an easy miss. He doesn't want to miss it too far to the right because he's going to leave himself up. But he's, you know, there's a ridge in the green that helps the ball in. Get it in the middle of the green and force the other player to dial it in close. You know, force him to make 2, but don't make 4. You know, on a dangerous hole, that's the only way to play match play. And, you know, my stroke play record was okay, but my match play record, I was tough to beat. You know, so, you know, match play is actually, you know, a really, really strategic game. And, you know, I was a better match player than I was a stroke player. You know, it's, you know, I loved all that sort of stuff. So, you know, you've got to know what to do to make it happen, you know.
Exactly.
So it's fine. If he doesn't learn by September, then Europe have got a few points in the bag.
Oh yeah, I don't mind that button stroke breaking down.
Yeah. Because there'd be a dilemma, wouldn't it? You get a phone call just before the Ryder Cup, and how much do you help one of you know, one of the opposition? It wouldn't be a dilemma. Whoever's paying gets the rewards, to be honest. So yeah, I wouldn't hold anything back. If he wanted that, you know, if he wanted the help to win multiple tournaments this year, he's only got to pick up the phone.
Tony, come on, it's about time.
Whoever
pick
you're
up the phone,
Andy,
yeah,
bro, pick it up. You know, we're there. Yeah, I mean that's it. It's you know, so frustrating because it's not a challenging fix either.
No,
you know, it's not a challenging fix. You know, keeping it there, sustaining it. You know, working with players who are, you know, prone to changing a lot. You know, that there would be an element of sustaining. The biggest challenge wouldn't be making the changes, it would be sustaining the changes, making sure that they stick and making sure the player doesn't, it would be a 24/7 job, you know, to make sure that happens. But, you know, and certainly in the first instance, it would be a very intense scenario, but you know, he wouldn't be the first player that I've done that with. You know, and if you want to see a 4-shot improvement per round, then that's, you know, on the greens. Yeah, to be fair, there's some decent stats this week too. But you know, you can't go by stats. You just got to go by the numbers. You know, stats are only as good as the numbers backing them up. And at the end of the day, his numbers don't back him up well enough. So it's frustrating. Back to the putters. I mean, you know, yeah, come on, guys, we want something new. Something new, something fresh, you know, and you know, yeah. You know what I do behind the scenes. You know that I'm not resting on my laurels. You know, we've got 3 new training aids coming out at the end of March, just before they'll be just at the start of the golf season. E-stroke training aids, so that'll take us up to 5 products, and I'm looking forward to being able to showcase those. You know, we're doing some filming a bit later this week, so you know it's going to keep us busy. You know, so yeah, I'm sort of stoked for being able to have the products going forward that are going to help the players the most going forward as well. Because at the end of the day, you know, we all want to be able to produce a more effective putting stroke, more you know, improved statistics on and around the greens. So yeah. So it's the fastest way, you know, to seeing improvement, It really is, and especially if you're a recreational golfer.
Yeah.
You know, so you know, we've got some changes afoot. I'm going to throw it out there. All right, there's only going to be one of us on a podcast going forward, and if that person is the one talking, then purely and simply because I have to say congratulations, Gareth, for your new role working with the PGA Education Centre side of things. So we will elaborate a little bit more on next week's show, because you know, ultimately it will be your swan song, even if it isn't mine. But
36 though, Andy. 36 podcasts that'll be.
Yeah, 2 full rounds. So you survive pretty much every one of them, I think.
I've made the cut. I've made the cut. Got it.
Oh yeah, actually you've ducked out. You withdrew, so you've got the WD on the end of yours. So yeah, we'll have to see whether Andy Gorman has a WD as well. But yeah, no, going forward, obviously there'll be some changes going forward into round 3, and whatever that's going to look like, we haven't decided as yet. Feel free to tell us what you'd like to see, and we'll endeavour to make sure it happens. What you've also got to be mindful of is that on top of everything else, what my wingman takes up an awful lot of my slack, and unfortunately I no longer have him around. So you know, I will be giving a lot of thought over the next week or so as to where we go and how we take Andy Gorman Golf going forward. But much more important than that is that you know, I trust that you will enjoy your new role at the PGA, and I have to say a huge thank you for everything that you've done so far. It's not the only one, it's not the last one, and we will do something going forward as well, I'm sure. But you know, we will, like I say, all of us, on behalf of all of us, Gareth, thanks for the work that you've done for Andy Gorman Golf, because it wouldn't be, Andy Gorman Golf wouldn't be where it is today without what you've put in the last 18 months. So that's a huge thank you. So
thanks, Paul. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, and we'll see you next week.